All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Non Sequitur Nerds. As always, I'm Tim, joined by Ian. Ian, how you doing tonight?
Hey Tim, doing pretty good. Just got back from dinner and grabbed some ice cream. Currently watching my cats trying to murder each other. So standard evening.
I mean, they're cats. That's what they do. So,
Right. I mean, the one of them is staring at me right now as if she wants to murder me.
again, it's a cat. That's to be expected.
Yes.
So, we had kind of teased this on an earlier episode that Ian and I are both players of TTRPGs. Ian, it's been a little while since you played, so that's actually what we're going to be discussing tonight. And we actually have a special guest on with us tonight. We've got joining us from the Cosmic Crit podcast, Drew. Drew, how you doing tonight, bud?
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad to have you on.
It's good to be here. I was informed that you guys need a little assistance in getting your podcast out there. Some tips, some tricks. I've been in the game for a long time. I have served as a as a mentor to many podcasts in the past. Greats like uh, Dan's Hit Wonderland, which ran for 6 episodes in 2009. The Coke Zero Sugar Energy Hour, which only ran for half of an episode before it was canceled unceremoniously. And El Gato Presents, and that's as far as they got with that concept. They did not actually record anything, but they had a good idea.
So yeah, all classics in their own rights.
I mean, to be fair, we're kind of in our fledgling rounds here, so why not?
Anyway, I kid. It's good to be here, guys. I'm excited to talk about non sequiturs. I think the concept of them is very cool. It's easy to get tripped up on them. Don't I know it?
Oh yeah.
But I feel like we're going to keep the conversation just tight tonight, focused. It's going to be great.
Laser
Have
focus. That's
have,
us.
have you ever had a conversation with Tim before?
I mean, one or two about let's see, Gundam usually.
Oh
I think
Lord! I mean, there's non sequiturs and non sequiturs and non sequiturs when you talk about Gundams.
I think the last actual conversation that we had that was not on text via Discord was I was doing a Macho Man Randy Savage impression for most of.
Oh God, I remember that.
Please.
I'm having flashbacks. for you were doing it for far too long, but it was still absolutely worth it.
It's never too long. That wasn't even a good one. I lost it. I lost the impression. It's over. Oh well.
We broke it.
And with that, folks, we thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and wrap. Oh, wait. No, sorry.
So, but no, we've got you on tonight, Drew, to talk about, tabletop RPGs. It's something that Ian and I have both been fans of for many years now, and I know you obviously are a bit of a fan of them as well.
Yeah, it's funny of all of the Cosmic Crit cast that you could bring on as a fan of TTRPGs. I think I am tied for having played the fewest number of them, which is pretty funny in its own right. But yeah, Starfinder is my RPG of choice. I know that is kind of I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I played a little bit of Pathfinder, not a ton. But yeah, I'm getting into it. I have now played that game long enough that I have bought a complete rule set and adventure guides for a completely different game that I have yet to read and are just sitting on my computer.
I can relate to that 100%. There is not too far from my house. There's a bookstore that they're effectively like the GameStop of books. They're called Half Price Books. Real good place. And that's effectively what they do is they buy books off of people and resell them. And
I don't think I realized that was a chain.
I say I thought it was a local thing until you said that. Yeah, you have some down there too?
Yeah, called Half Price Books. That's exactly what they do.
But every time I go in there, I will always go to their RPG section and see, what do they have? And I've got, a whole shelf of stuff that I've picked up from there of game systems that I know I will never run, but I like to have that book, just in case. Like I've got the Trigun RPG book.
There was a Trigun RPG?
Yes. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that there was, but I'm like, yeah, I'm
Was
going to
it
buy that.
was it really interesting for the first 75% of the chapters and the last 25% just went in a completely different direction that you lost all focus and made you really dislike the whole experience overall?
I mean, yeah, that pretty much sums up anything Trigun.
I mean, that pretty much sums up anything that Tim does.
Well, I mean, yeah, I go gung ho 75% of the way through and then forget about it. Wait,
Yeah, but
are we doing
you
a
know,
podcast?
the best thing about the tabletop Trigun game is that, you know, or tabletop Trigun RPG is that just like Tim's favorite character, I can kill him off.
I hate you so much. You know the best thing about it? I can write a new story where Wolfwood lives.
Yeah,
I haven't.
I'm
I have
still going
spoilers.
to kill you.
I have not seen Trigun in far too many years. It's probably been at least 15, probably more, maybe approaching 20. But I just remember that show and loving that show and loving that show, and then they make the big reveal of Vash the Stampede, and it's like, what? Why'd they got to do this, man?
Right.
Just I lost the love for it. I don't know.
Yeah, that towards the end there, it kind of got weird. And even that's putting it nicely.
I mean, it might be different if I went back and watched it now. Revisit a younger Johnny Young Bosch as a voice actor, just making his way in the world.
Oh yeah,
He'd been the Black Ranger, and now just gonna use his voice talents.
I mean, it's worked out well for him. He's maintained a fairly steady career over the years.
Hey,
That is very true.
Yes, he has. So, but as far as tabletop games go, I know Ian and I have known each other for quite a while. He was actually in the first group that I ever ran games with, and we actually ran the EverQuest tabletop game. Which
That
is
another one I was not aware existed, but I probably shouldn't be surprised that an EverQuest, because a lot of the RPG video games came out of tabletop stuff. I mean, even if you go back to like Star Wars KOTOR, there were literal die rolls that you'd basically see the numbers rolling on the screen before you did damage and things like that. Granted, EverQuest is a bit older than that, but
a little bit. Well, I mean, heck, they had an EverQuest 2 tabletop as well, which pretty much was the exact same thing, just reskinned to fit the world of EverQuest 2. I mean, not in a bad
basically,
way.
it was like EverQuest 2, a new skin, but nobody cared
because they didn't want to. I mean, twos and MMOs don't seem to work. I'm not sure of one that has, unless there's a huge gap of time between the two.
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Guild Wars 2 was moderately successful, I think.
I did forget about Guild Wars 2.
So did everyone else.
Yeah. People still play it, I think they're still putting out content. But like World of Warcraft is still maintained its, what, are they 15 years at this point?
I think so.
Pretty close.
They came out when I was in high school, so
yeah, it's been a while on that one.
It was 2001, I think it came out. So this might be. This isn't 20 years. No, it's not 2000. It's not 2001. It's 2004 that it came out.
I mean, either way, that's getting pretty close to the 20-year mark. Wow.
Well, according to my friend Google, WoW's 16th anniversary was November 1st of 2020. So we have surpassed 16 years of World of Warcraft, which I believe also had its own tabletop games, which were, again, very reminiscent of the EverQuest games and those same genre. I mean, it all stems from really Dungeons and Dragons, which was basically the way EverQuest played. It was just, video game locales based upon the video games, including Bixies.
Oh, Bixies. I hate those things.
Yeah.
But like, speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, that was one of the first ones that I had ever played. And I didn't really understand, the rules too much, the world, anything like that. So the first thing that I did, the DM puts us in a town. I don't remember what town it is at this point, but the Great Wizard Elminster was there. And what does my character do? I'm going to keep bugging him until he gives me a cool magic thing. That campaign lasted one game. I was dead, and I didn't play D&D again for like 5 years. But I played Shadowrun was actually the first game system that I actually played and got into for a decent length of time. So I mean, that one's always going to hold a special place for me.
Shadowrun is one that I have some passing interest in, just because I think I listened to one too many Harmontown podcasts where they played in air quotes Shadowrun. Right. But again, yeah, I started. We got together starting recording in late 2016. And we started goofing around. We were playing it was a Pathfinder spinoff that's called FFD20. It is Final Fantasy based
Yep.
on the Pathfinder open game license, and we were playing that and having a good time. And roundabout when that started, and we were getting into it, the concept of a little game called Starfinder came along, and I'm a big sci-fi fan. I am way more in the sci-fi camp than the fantasy camp anyway.
Same.
And so I got Patrick, our GM on that show, and one of my friends for also nearly 20 years, talked us into playing, and we got into it. We got all the as many materials as we could and as early as we could, and that's I think we had our first episode out the week that the actual game book released, and we have been releasing weekly content plus ever since. It's been kind of wild that and that's really, again, the first game system that I have gotten way into. And it's weird, you go back and listen to some of our early Cosmic Grid episodes. I literally do not know what's going on in most of those. So if you are trying to get into Starfinder, listen to our show, because you will see us, one, not know what to do, two, cut out the 25 minutes of looking through books and determining the rules, and then three, cut back into with the solution to the rules question. So you don't have to look it up. You can just wait for us to figure it out. It's a fun time.
So I'm pretty sure a frequent phrase in your guys' early seasons was, "What's an attack of opportunity? How does that work? What?"
And then of course we have some of our team that are old Pathfinder players, and they're talking about guarded steps versus 5-foot steps, and
Yep.
and now that we've started the Pathfinder 2E Patreon content, half of our team plays that, and so they're getting confused with Pathfinder 2E and Pathfinder 1E and Starfinder. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting here waiting for them to figure it out, just chilling, relaxing.
See, I think it was you guys were actually the reason that I even discovered Starfinder back in the days, even before the Discord was a thing. Back when it was just, I think Patrick runs the Twitter, if not, correct me, but when it was just the Twitter saying, "Hey, we have a new episode out." I'm like, what's this Starfinder thing? And now I have 2.5 shelves on my bookshelf dedicated just to Starfinder books.
Yeah, it gets in there, you attach to something and you start buying things. Like, do you know how many dice I own? I did not own a single set of dice when we started doing this, because all of our play is done digitally.
Right.
Around me, I have at least 6 sets of dice. Just here, I have more than that. I maybe play in real life once a year pre-pandemic.
Right.
And I have no need for this amount of dice, but I've got, the Dead Sun special dice set. I've got this dice set. Oh, this is cool. I've got my Cosmic Crit official dice set. That is a thing that exists, which
Right.
I was, that I have my D20 in my hand right now, looking at it, taunting me.
It's like taunting you that you can't actually be at a table around people right now doing it.
But again, that's another thing about playing online. It has not impacted our ability to play the game at all. We still do it exactly the same way we've been doing it, just keeping it going. It's the digital world.
Well, saying that's an absolute
Digimon?
benefit. Digimon.
I don't think I actually own a single die, unless there's a game of Yahtzee that's in the closet that I forgot about.
Well, I was gonna say, like Ian, you haven't done really much, if any, tabletop since you had gone to college and then moved away, right?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Tim and I started off in tabletop together many moons ago. I think 20 years ago at this point.
That's about right.
Was this in the Shadowrun days?
It wasn't quite Shadowrun, so this was in the EverQuest days.
Yep.
I think Tim was reading on the Shadowrun stuff, and when he bought the EverQuest book, because he and I played the EverQuest MMO at the time, and
Far
so then
too
he's
much.
like, "Ooh, yeah," it was like, "Yeah, freaking Christmas tree." We played EverQuest, the MMO, and so then Tim picked up this book, and then we brought in our other friend Kevin to play with us, because it's kind of hard to play with just 2 people. Not that 3 people was any better, but we played, and I think Tim got into the dice. Got into collecting dice. Tim's always, if you don't know anything about him, he's always a collector. He's got
Oh yeah.
mountains of crap everywhere. Um, so I didn't
Organized.
even own any dice back then. Like, I just borrowed dice from these guys. Uh, they I played when I could, but I had a part-time, full-time job. I was in school and everything else, so I didn't have as much free time to be able to kind of to go and play as many tabletops. I wish I could, but sometimes that whole call of money thing was rather important back then.
See that's
Oh
why you,
yeah, the
that's
new
why you get
Call
the
of Money
job.
game is really good this year. The multiplayer has gotten ridiculous, but single player campaign's still pretty tight.
There you go. But I'm actually, if Ian will finally get around to it, going to be running an online game of Starfinder with him and Kevin. So we're actually getting our original gaming group back together digitally. So I'm actually
I
looking.
downloaded the Fantasy Grounds thing.
Okay, good. They're not sponsoring us. I tried.
I mean, as you do.
But yeah, so I mean, we're going to be doing that. I know Kevin has actually played Starfinder in pre-pandemic times. My gaming group that gets together at my house every other Sunday, we had actually ran through Dead Sons back when you guys were Drew were still doing season 1, and I think we were like half a book behind you guys. So the beginning of my week would always be catching up, listening, kind of giving myself a primer on okay, well, what's coming up, and how can I get the players to that point a little bit better, kind of getting some ideas off of Patrick, listening to how you guys would do it. And I mean that honestly helped out a lot for me as a new person running a Starfinder game, learning the rules. A lot of the questions I had were ones that you guys had as well, also being new players to the system.
I'm glad that it's helped some folks because we spent some time looking through rules and finding rules and coming up against stuff like, I mean, it is clear if you listen to those early episodes how little I knew based on things, and comments that still get made about some particular moves I made in the early days of that campaign. I get brought up all the time with sense motive and snacks and a number of other things.
Oh yeah, that still gets brought up.
Yeah, but you know what? I did that, and I stand by it, the decision, because I could smell something in those snacks. I could figure that out. But also just, and also black milk. You don't know that black milk isn't sentient. I don't know that
It might be.
personally. But then I also had one of my coolest, most epic gameplay moments in that season that I still stand by, one of the coolest things that I've ever done in gaming to this day. Now that I actually know most of the rules, I still don't know most of the rules, I'll be honest.
Right.
I know a lot more of them, but the simple things are easier now. It's the more complicated, can I do this, that still gets me.
Right. Like I have an ability that says I can do this. So can I do that in conjunction with this other ability while still being able to move and take a guarded step? Like, hang on. Let me look and see what this first thing even does.
Only if you roll an acrobatics check.
Right? Or some random thing like that.
do you have profession psychic?
No?
Then
I mean,
no.
we spend a lot of time looking up the rules in those early days. I mean, Kevin and I mostly looked up the rules so that we could figure out fun ways to circumvent them.
Well, see, and
Uh,
Kevin still does that.
well, yes, I always love to tell the story because it pisses Tim off the most.
I know which one it is. Go
Yes.
ahead.
So in those early EverQuest days, Tim made the unfortunate mistake of going to bed and leaving the rule book sitting with Kevin and I stayed up until, well, Tim eventually got up, so that we could finish moving along our campaign. And long story short, we managed to kill a god with an enema.
True story.
So
Like you do.
yes, we managed to kill a god with an enema, and as many ways as Tim tried to figure out ways to stop us from doing it, we had a rule to throw back at him that said that we could, and eventually called his brother-in-law
Who's actually one of
And
the people that got me into tabletop gaming.
correct. And then explained the scenario to him and Paul, his response was, "No, no, that tracks. They can totally do that based on the rules."
It was
In which case, I believe at that point Tim took the rule book, told us to leave, went to his room, and I don't think we talked to him for another 3 days after that.
it was a weekend, to be fair. But no, because
Yes,
it
it was a Sunday morning.
Oh yeah.
It also was a very special enema that he was saving for a special occasion.
You know, it's true, But yeah, it was a
Yes.
combination of rules that you guys had found in the book and some house rules that I had set in stone when we started playing. Between all those things, like it's like I have no way to back out of this now.
And thus ended our first campaign.
With an
And I don't remember what we did after that. I think honestly we picked up a different board game or a different game and started playing.
It was we started playing Bessem. You had actually, I think for my birthday, had
Oh,
gotten me
yes.
first edition Bessem, which I still have.
Yes, that's right.
Which was
The Bessem game.
Which if are you familiar with that one at all, Drew?
I've never heard of it.
Okay. Bessem stands for Big Eyes, Small Mouth. It was one of the first, or maybe the first that I know of, anime tabletop games. Completely open-ended. You could take any kind
Actually,
of
I have heard of this when you describe it that
Okay.
way. Yes.
But yeah, it was you could pretty much take, any kind of character from an anime, look in the book and go, okay, well they would fit this archetype, this kind of class, and you could pretty much, you could make a Vasha Stampede, you could make a Gene Starwind, you could make you could make Guyver if you wanted to.
I think your character was Alucard from the Helsing series, if I remember.
Yep, because we started playing that when I first started watching the original Helsing series.
Guys, Alucard. Whether you're to talk about that one or to talk about the Castlevania one, got a little secret for you. You guys ever heard this? Alucard is Dracula spelled backwards.
Boom, mind's blown.
Really? I'm totally kidding. I knew that, but
I was gonna say I really hope you are.
No, I've known that for years. But
I mean,
comedic
yes, it's one of those silly things that
everyone knows.
That everyone knows. It's like you can't even. It's also so obvious that Alucard and Dracula are just the same word spelled backwards. It's not like Tails from the Sonic games.
Mhm.
Like about 75% of people, when you talk about Sonic the Hedgehog and his buddy Tails, whose name is miles per hour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Miles per hour.
Yeah.
Like that one. Like if you never think about it, because that one's gets a little bit of a pass because it's Tails. Like you only call him Tails. You forget that his name is Miles half the time anyway.
Right.
There was another one that came up the other day that I didn't realize. I can't remember what it is now.
It'll come to you in about 10 minutes, and then interruption, and
you'll just randomly blurt it out.
Moment.
Just randomly blurt it out, and we'll have no idea what you're talking about.
Ah, it was this. Ah,
that.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we played Bessem. We played a little bit of. I think we delved into a little bit of Shadowrun before I eventually went off to college. I can't remember. I can't remember what game it was that we played right before I left, where I murdered the ever-loving hell out of most of the party out of spite.
Was that still Bessem?
I don't think it was Bessem. It was some other. It was some other game. It was the one where Kara lit me on fire, and so I murdered her in her sleep.
Oh, no, that was one of the homebrew games that our friend Corey ran. I think.
Maybe I don't remember.
But
yeah.
Well, hang on. Were you around when that group started playing Vampire?
No, I wasn't around. I made a guest appearance, I think, for one game because it just so happened to work out that I was in town when you guys were playing, and then
that's we gave you a random mook.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Vampire is one that I've played a decent amount of the World of Darkness games as well, and then the group that pre-pandemic times that I was playing in, as a player obviously, does a modified World of Darkness system based around superheroes, which actually didn't take that much conversion to do. The hardest part was just figuring out how to work pretty much every power you could think of into that game. It was a lot of fun. Had some decent characters in that one.
Yeah, I
Nice.
remember you guys telling me about it. I think was that the one with the worm that Kevin was obsessed with trying to capture?
Oh, that was one of them. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
then became a time. I think I did play World of Darkness with you guys a little bit. I became a time mage, and we kept sticking like catastrophic, nuclear explosions inside time bubbles to leave inside people's houses.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Before we knew how paradox worked in the mage rules, our GM just completely flubbed how that worked. So our mages, by the time we decided, yeah, we should probably call it, were more or less omnipotent, and you couldn't kill them, and they were maybe like mid-tier characters, not even halfway to being completely maxed out. They were so broken, so broken, and it's things like that when you don't really know the rules of a game, it can make the game even more fun, or it can just horribly break it.
Well, and that's also true of fan creations, because a lot of fan creations, like I mentioned the FFD20 talking about my gaming history.
Mm-hmm.
That was largely fan submission, open source. It's not an official thing,
Right.
but because of that, if you have someone, Jabert, our player Jabert, who will get into a rule set and he will break a game. He and actually Miles randomly picked these two classes, completely broke the game.
Oh god.
In the best possible ways, because they had super high ACs, they had super high percentages to hit. It was ridiculous. At one point, Jabert stole a train.
like hijacked it or stole a train.
Like sleight of hand rolled high enough to steal a train.
How? Okay, how?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to refer to the tapes on that one. I just know that it happened. It was never brought up again because I think Patrick was a little, just chose to ignore it, despite the fact that we knew at some point that Jabert's cat person had a train.
Just walking around with a train in your pocket, no big deal.
I mean, I think that's a symptom of not only just the the fan creations, but just even anybody really starting out in games. There's some of these things can be really complicated. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of
Right.
things to understand. I mean, for crying out loud, Tim, even in our first game, I somehow managed to roll a high enough number on a character that shouldn't have to turn an orc into a literal smear against the mountainside.
Yeah. When you triple critted on him, and we're like, okay, your dice are broken.
It wasn't even a triple crit. I just rolled a high enough number, and we flubbed the stat rolls and everything else, and I did 107 damage against this thing,
and you
and
were
there was no feasible
level 2,
way
right?
that shouldn't have happened. Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to go back to something else because I'm thinking about this. Is there a least convenient form of transportation to steal than a train?
Well, no,
Smart car.
Oh, yeah.
No, but that's still a car. A train requires a track. You steal a train, there's two directions that you're going to go.
A hand-powered minecart. Because it doesn't even have the towing capacity of a train.
I mean, the train, theoretically, it could move without the tracks. It just has to dig deep enough grooves into whatever it is that you're setting it on.
Yeah, but I don't...
I can still only go one direction. Unless you've seen, what is that Tom Hanks Christmas movie? With the train.
Polar Express?
Polar Express! That's the one where you can Tokyo drift an entire train.
Thank you for getting the actual answer out there before I could formulate a joke. Appreciate it.
And buzzkill.
I was going to say Cloud Atlas, but no, you had to get in with the right answer first. Because
I've got young kids. I've seen that movie more times than I want to admit. Yeah, I mean, Okay, now I'm thinking what could be a slightly more inconvenient mode of transportation?
Because
Hoverboard?
a
Even
hoverboard
that'd be
gets cool
close to
points.
yeah.
That gets dope points.
And if you play your cards right and get an early enough generation, you can use it as a weapon when somebody gets lit on fire by riding it.
Oh, you're talking about a real hoverboard. I was going for the Back to the Future 2
See,
hoverboard.
No, no,
that's
I was
where I
talking
went
about
was
the
Back
real
to the
Which,
Future.
again, that hoverboard, because those things don't work on water. You have to be careful where you are. Like if you're at sea, a hoverboard isn't going to do you very good unless you've got the Mad Dog. Did it have a number behind it? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The one with rockets on it that really injured that one lady in that movie. That she hit. Do you guys know the story about this in Back to the Future too?
Yeah. The dummies. She wound up hitting like a pylon, I think, in front of the building, like one of the support pylons, and really kind of got effed up.
The scene is in the movie, but they don't show you that, like, oh, she got real hurt from that. That's
Well, I mean, that whole series was kind of fraught with random injuries and things like that. Back to the Future 3, the scene where Marty gets uh, Tannen kind of hangs or tries to hang him. They put the rope around Michael J. Fox wrong, and he was actually choking
Oh God.
while they were filming that scene. So
They wanted realism.
yes, realism beyond real, apparently.
Apparently.
like that's one of those things where I know the only times that I've seen like major actors, and I say major actors because stunt people oftentimes get hurt on sets when they're doing stuff like that. Not often, sometimes get hurt on sets, but there's a certain amount of this is going to happen to them. Of the ones that I'm aware of, it's the Marty McFly in Back to the Future 3. It's what's her name in Now You See Me, where she's doing a water stunt.
Okay.
Where she was supposed to have there, like she's trying to get out, like she's trying to do the get out of the straitjacket underwater, and she passes out. But it's again one of those situations where, like, oh, is she just doing this as part of a bit? Is this part of this acting that she's doing, or is this totally real? And luckily they figured out that it was totally real and got her out and resuscitated her. But
wow.
yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like if an actor has to be choked, or pretend that they're choking, or anything underwater, those are the hard parts to see whether, because if you're underwater and you act panicked because you can't breathe, they don't know whether it's real or whether it's acting.
Yeah, that would be, God, that would be a horrible thing. Man.
I mean, that's how Houdini went, was a botched trick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a pretty rough way to go.
I mean, like, the worst part of that is sitting there knowing that, like, you're, like, calling out for help and everybody's just sitting there behind the camera clapping at you. That'd be that's the last thing you see.
Because that's where it's like, okay, if I can't breathe, I need to have a hand signal so that I can't actually breathe. Like if I raise my hand and do the little, chomp chomp with my hands, that means I can't breathe, because that's nothing any normal human being would do in their actual normal lives. But if you're in a straitjacket trying to escape a straitjacket, you can't do the chomp chomp.
Yeah.
How do you, what do you do? What is your goal?
Blink 3 times within 2.5 seconds.
If you could remember to do that,
right,
while panicked because you can't breathe.
Oh man, that'd be rough.
I guess maybe it depends on how hard you headbutt the plexiglass.
Truth.
I think your go-to answer is, if you can't breathe and you can't breathe, go ahead and pretend to pass out before you actually pass out, because they'll pull you out of concern before brain damage kicks in.
Well, let's hope so anyway. Man,
I was going to say, we hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stunt coordinator took a coffee break.
Oh God.
Whoops.
I mean,
we've rehearsed this scene enough. They got this. I'll be in my trailer.
that stunt coordinator stuff, man. You make me. I'm now all thinking of all of the major accidents that I know of that have happened in movies, and a shockingly large amount of them have resulted in no fatalities,
Which is good.
which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think of the classic ones at this point of Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee.
Right.
Yeah,
Those are. I hate to use the word classic; they're tragedies, but I mean those are the ones. Those are ones that are very well known.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, then you look at, even going farther than that, like Jackie Chan. I mean, he got hurt all the time. I mean, it was never anything super major, but I mean, he was getting hurt. Like, that was a common thing. Like, all right, we're going to have to film this scene tomorrow. Jackie broke something.
but that's also the time, the
Right.
time and the place that he shot a lot of those movies, and there he in particular. Well, granted, he's really old now
Yeah.
and can't do the things that he can do or used to be able to do. But
Right.
like Hong Kong in the 1980s, they were just making movies. They didn't have to worry about regulations a lot of the time, and you can see that go through with the way that they did some of those things. And it's really, really compelling and really interesting when you see this stuff happen. It doesn't look faked because a lot of it wasn't.
Right.
But there's something to be said for safety.
Yeah.
It's
Well, see, now you're a bit of a movie guy. Speaking of Jackie Chan, what is the movie where there's a scene where he starts dressing up as different Street Fighter characters?
I don't know this.
No? Okay.
Honestly.
I was, we were talking about him. That scene popped in my mind. I'm like, what movie is that? Because it's one that I've seen that clip, but I have no idea what movie it's from.
Is it what year was it? Or era? What decade was it?
That had to be, man.
I mean, if it was Street
Rush
Fighter,
well, he dresses up as Chun-Li in one scene, which just absolutely cracked me up. Jackie Chan being Chun-Li.
It had to be post 90s or 90s and later, but I'm trying to figure out is it like early enough that it was something that would have happened when he was in his Hong Kong days, or is this in like Rush Hour 2 when this happens?
I'm gonna look. City Hunter is apparently the name of the movie. When did it come out?
Never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, City Hunter. I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
To the Google.
Let's see. Released in 1993.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Would have been early for a Street Fighter crossover.
Yeah, that would have been pretty early in its days then.
Yeah. Huh.
It's
it's
based on a
it was
manga.
very topical of the time, I guess.
You guys familiar with Jackie Chan's music career?
No.
In China, he has had a very successful music career. And in fact, he has been used in a number of Disney films, but specifically he's the singing voice of the Mulan's eventual commander and eventual boyfriend in the animated Mulan film. He's the singing voice for that character.
Really?
Oh, Shang.
Shang.
Shang Tsung. Wait, wrong series.
No. Although would surprise me.
I'd watch a Mortal Kombat musical just for seeing the train wreck.
And it couldn't be any worse than Mortal Kombat 2. The movie.
I honestly think that a musical number in Mortal Kombat Annihilation would have made that movie better. Honestly.
It really would have. I mean, it couldn't have detracted from it any.
Oh no, not in the slightest. That movie was.
I actually rewatched that recently, and I'm like, maybe I'm just remembering it worse than it was. And no, my memory was intact. It was a horrible thing.
Yeah, it was truly awful. It was really, really, really bad. I mean, I have a soft spot for the first Mortal Kombat movie. It takes a particular movie to get 2 soundtracks released for it. I'm just going to say that out loud.
That's true. But I mean,
that's completely fair.
Like video game movies in general have just there have been so few good ones that, like, everybody's like, oh, ours is going to be different. Ours is going to be different. And it wasn't different at all, was it, Steve?
Steve is always trying to pull that stuff.
No, Hugh Bowles trying to pull that stuff.
Man, that's going to be a recurring character on this show at this point. I don't know that we have done an episode yet where we have not somehow managed to mention Yue Bowl.
I think so far, yeah, we have a perfect track record of mentioning him.
I do. No, I was going to ask you a question. I'm withdrawing it.
Uh-oh.
Never mind.
Well, now I'm
the question I had, and it's a very simple one. I don't want an answer to it.
All right.
Do not want an answer. But here's the question. Why? But I don't want an answer.
I mean, that's a question that doesn't need answered.
Well, on that terrible disappointment, we should maybe move back to talking about tabletop RPGs, which I think we kind of got away from about 15 minutes ago, and somehow have circled the wagons completely.
Well, speaking of tabletop RPGs, Dungeon Siege, which I'm sure had a TTRPG version. Isn't that what Uable did that movie on? Was it Dungeon Siege? Which one was it?
I think so. Wasn't Jason Statham in that movie?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I thought I remember that.
No. Here's one. If we're gonna bring it real full circle, what fantasy class would Uable be?
Bard.
But not a good one.
What? But here's the deal.
Oh, so he would be a bard.
Oh,
yeah. Well, here's the deal about Uable. Or Uweable. I've heard both. I don't know.
I've heard both.
He is German, so I guess the thing about his movies is that he makes them based on the tax credits that he gets for making them because he shoots them all in play. Seriously. So his movies cost literally nothing to make because he has gotten all of it down to hugely manipulating all these tax cuts based on, I think it is filming in Germany because they have to have a certain number of content produced per year in the country.
Yeah.
And because of that, it doesn't matter how good the movie is. He is always going to profit from making the movie because he's got the system down to a science.
So he is a bard.
So what is incredibly depressing to me is I have looked up the cast of, it was actually called In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale.
Like you do.
Okay, when you have to put the thing that it's about as the movie's subtext, that sets a precedent right there.
Right. Apparently this was a very, very good tax dollar year for him because we have Jason Statham,
All right.
Lily Sobieski, who I don't think has done anything since this movie. Claire Forlani, who I don't know who that is, but anyway, Ray Liotta, John Rhys Davies, Burt Reynolds, Ron Perlman, Matthew Lillard.
What?
What the hell? Apparently 2008 was a year that nobody could get any work.
What was the box office on that?
Oh boy, let's see. Oh man, I'm gonna have to dig a little bit. It's got a 3.8 on IMDb and a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh god.
Which
The
tracks?
budget was 60 million USD.
You said in 2008?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That
and
tracks.
the box office take home was an abysmal 13.1 million.
Ouch.
So I just want to say the box office take home for City Hunter was 14.6 million.
All right, Jackie Chan for the win.
So again, I don't know. That's the box office according to Wikipedia. I don't know that was an American box office or a Hong Kong box office, but
one of the two.
16 million. Oh, actually, that is a combined gross of South Korea and Hong Kong and kind of Taiwan as well. So, yeah, and Japan as well. Anyway, I also looked up why Jackie Chan was dressed as a Street Fighter character. So he gets thrown into a Street Fighter 2 arcade machine.
Yep.
And because of an electric shock, he starts hallucinating things from the game. I got to see this movie.
It's like, just that one scene is absolutely worth seeing.
All right. Wow. Apparently, the film, the Dungeon Siege film, got nominated for 5 Razzies, including Worst Picture, Worst Screenplay, Worst Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds, and Worst Supporting Actress for Lily Sobieski. Again, I have no idea what she's done since then.
City Hunter is apparently based on a manga
Yeah,
of the
I was
same
reading
name.
that. Yeah,
Huh.
which I
Interesting.
want to see if in the manga that happens, or if they just got paid money to throw in Capcom characters. Who knows?
Oh, I'm sure they did, because this would have been 93. When did Street Fighter 2 come out? Street Fighter 2 came out in 91. So it would have been this is prime
Oh yeah.
Street Fighter 2 in Southeast Asia territory.
Yeah.
And now we get Monster Hunter instead.
You know, I was playing Monster Hunter World earlier today because I forgot that I really liked that game, so I picked it up and have been playing through it again. And they're advertising a tie-in. You can play as Artemis and for a couple of missions, I guess, and I don't know, get some gear or something based upon whatever her I don't remember. I can't remember the actress's name at this point.
Lulu Dallas multipass.
Yes, Mia Jovovich or Jovovich or whatever it is. You can apparently get some swag based upon her in the game, which
it took me a second to realize what you had said, Drew.
Lulu Dallas multipass.
Lulu Dallas multipass of the Dallas multipasses.
Oh, of
Yes.
course, of course.
Yes, exactly. So further depressing as well is that apparently this In the Name of the King thing spawned not 1 but 2 sequels, one of which starring Dolph Lundgren.
Well, I mean, it's Dolph Lundgren.
He had to pay for his PhD somehow.
Right. And then Sly came back and offered him money for doing The Expendables, and he was finally going, "Oh, thank God, I don't have to do crappy UA Bowl movies anymore."
I got to double check that. I know that Dolph Lundgren almost had his PhD. I don't know if he actually got it. Is he Dr. Lundgren?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the lead singer from The Offspring has a master's in chemical engineering. So
actually, I think he might be a doctor now too.
He might be
Dr. Offspring.
Yes.
That's a horrible villain name right there. Just saying, or a great villain name actually.
Well, the thing about him is the dude from Offspring. Like he went back to school and got his master's and maybe doctorate. I'd have to look that up again, to like work in like infectious diseases and like chemical stuff for like, I want to say it's had something to do with like actually helping the world.
Oh,
like
wow.
I want to say it was either like contamination or pollution or drugs or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it's wild.
Something worthwhile, yeah.
Unlike Peter Weller, RoboCop, with his doctorate in art. Art.
Dr. RoboCop.
He's literally Dr. RoboCop. That dude has a PhD. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I don't know, the patented Paul Verhoeven co-ed shower scenes are I consider pretty high art for his movies. So, and yes, Dexter Holland did attained a PhD in molecular biology in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Peter Weller did get his in Italian Renaissance art history in 2014. So he did beat Offspring dude by a couple of years, but I want to say maybe not as difficult. I don't have a PhD in anything. I think that to me, Italian Renaissance art history and chemical engineering sound equally difficult to get PhDs in, but I feel like something with more like math. I don't know how much math is involved in Italian Renaissance art history.
I mean, there's Google. Just saying.
Kind of makes me wonder, like, what kind of TTRPG a molecular biologist would come up with.
Ooh.
Like, I feel like it would be horribly depressing to anybody that hasn't been in school for 20 years.
I mean, just
I don't know.
The calculations you'd have to do to. All right. I want to move my character forward 20 feet. All right, I'm going to need you to roll 40 things for that.
I'm pretty good friends with a chemical engineer master who plays a master's in that who plays a TTRPG and gets way into rules and breaks games and stole a train.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I guess maybe that's how you spawn a game like Pandemic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which is one I haven't played actually.
There's actually a tabletop game that I have played and you have not. I am
Oh,
very
wow.
surprised.
Yeah, even I've played Pandemic.
Like I've played the board game, but I haven't played the tabletop. Man, I just lost some points, didn't I?
Well, no, I haven't played the tabletop. I've just played the board game.
Oh.
There's that new one that that involves like ripping up cards. What is that? Pandemic Legacy? Is that what it's called?
That sounds
There's
right.
a lot of different versions of Pandemic anymore these days.
There was one that I'd played not too long ago, just as a one shot. Oh gosh, now I can't even remember. 10 Candles, where the whole premise of it is by the end of the game you will die. It's just a matter of how long you actually survive. But when you do your character creation, it's pretty neat because it's super basic. Like everybody writes down like one or two attributes about their character, and they're on like little index cards. So I mean that's all you need is some 6-sided dice, 10 candles, and some index cards. That's literally all you need to play. And it's a very very much old school World of Darkness where it's more about the story than it is about the roles. But that one was pretty neat because you have to I don't remember where I was going with this, but those different attributes and things that your characters have, you can actually use those to heavily influence the game. And in between each scene, the storyteller puts out one candle. By the time that all the candles are gone, that's effectively like the end of the world. It's very very Lovecraftian inspired in like the setting of it and everything like that. But I mean, we were talking earlier about homebrewed games, and some of them have the potential to be really great, fun things. And then, like Drew said, in other ones you steal trains and have them in your pocket.
Look, I mean, that train continued to run. I just thought he was getting a kickback the entire time. Just
like, okay, did he have the train on him, or
I mean, for all we remember, I believe the train continued to to this day I do not know. I don't know because
all you know is he stole a train.
It was magic. It was all magic.
I mean, admittedly though, Tim, I think was it the World of Darkness game or was it another one where Corey would beat people to death with a door?
No, that was Casey, whose character had literally, if his intelligence stat had dropped any more, he would have been considered brain dead. But he compensated that by putting all the points he could have put into intelligence in his strength. And instead of actually getting an actual weapon, he literally ripped a steel security door off of a wall and was beating people with it, and using it as a shield, and using it as a sled at one point. It was a very versatile weapon, actually, the steel door. Underrated one.
Before I get emails about this, I do want to say this was a Final Fantasy based campaign, and before you say you can't steal a train, Final Fantasy has also allowed a character to suplex a train.
Yes, it has.
So,
and they kept that in any remakes of that too, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just because he just picks up whatever the sprite of the thing that he suplexes is, and whether it's a train or whether it's a dude or whether it's a Magitech armor, he'll pick that thing up and slam it on the ground. We're talking about Sabin Figaro.
One of the greatest scenes in Final Fantasy.
First of his name.
Didn't you play a character named Sabin at one point? I, for some reason, just remember that.
No, not that I recall anyway.
I mean, knowing you, we probably just referred to it as Idiot Bard and proceeded to maliciously make fun of him or try to murder him.
20 years later, you guys are still bringing up that bard.
You have played multiple bards.
I have.
In every game that we have played with you, where you have played a bard, we have maliciously made fun of and tried to murder him.
One of my favorite bards that I've played, and if you guys can't tell, I have a fondness of bards, was a troll bard named Thrognak, whose lute was made of rock.
Rognak the Troll Bard!
Well, but the thing was, like, because his charisma stat was so high, even though, like, by all rights, his music should sound terrible, it was a train wreck. People just, they were just enthralled with it. They couldn't stop listening to him, even though it was literally making their ears bleed. Oh, Thrognak. I would make troll-inspired covers of, like, at the time, modern songs. Whenever I would sing, do any of my bard spells, that was always fun, having to come up with new songs in between each campaign or in between each session.
You're gonna have to do one right now. You set that up. See, this is the thing about podcasting. You set up something, and this is another tip, another podcasting tip. You invite speculation into what you're doing. You have to pay that speculation off. Let's hear it. Let's hear a troll song.
Well, see, I had already.
I hear balking. I can't do it. No, you took the time to bring it up. That means you had one queued.
No, I had a week in between games to bring it up. So that means I have to come up with one in the next week.
Well,
see,
you know what?
You had them already. And I know, based on our conversation tonight, I know you got a pretty good memory for stuff that you've done in the past. So all of a sudden you can't remember your troll songs? I don't buy it.
Let's see. I can remember some title. Thrognak's Cherry Pie, which that one is exactly what you think it would be. Oh gosh, what else did I come up with? I haven't thought of that character in forever now. Ian, I need a distraction.
Where?
Sorry, I'm currently taking down a note that next week Tim must sing Troll Song.
I hate you so
and
much.
As proof of this, I will take a picture of this sticky note that is currently has just been plastered to my monitor, and I will post it up on our website, which is nonsequiturnerds.com. Check it out. You can find all of our podcast links there.
Okay, admittedly, that was a pretty good segue into a plug.
But I will absolutely post a picture of it.
Oh god,
Tim, I will know if you don't do this.
Yeah, I know you'll be hounding me on your Discord. Tim, where's your troll song? I need a troll song, Tim.
I got my eye on you.
Oh god, Drew's watching me now. I have to do it.
Always watching.
We'll put up some of my totally copyright, non-infringing troll songs as a special episode.
I mean, if Weird Al can get away with parody, I think you can.
I mean, we just have to say this is for parody and whatnot.
Yeah, but Weird Al's parodies are good.
Well, yeah. I never said mine were good.
Well, I think the other thing is that none of us really fully believe that we will make money off of said parody. So,
I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll be losing money at this point.
Probably. And by the way, lawyers for whoever Tim decides to parody, I am not affiliated with him in any way other than through this podcast.
And hang on, is that the sound of a bus I hear coming?
No, train.
Oh, see, we've come full circle to that's where the train was.
No, look out for that train! It's stolen.
But talking about the stolen train, that reminds me a lot of some of our early games, Ian. In my early days as a GM, I always thought, like, I'll give the players like a unique magic item to start off with, something that unique to their character. It can be anything they want. So our friend Kevin decided that he wanted his character to have a hoodie that had a bag of holding built into the little hoodie pouch. But he stipulated that it was magic elastic, so he could stretch it, as far as as his hands could do it.
We call that Magilastic now.
Magilastic, yeah. It's been copyrighted. I think the ShamWow guy does commercials for it, but if he's not in jail.
No, that was only after he got beat up by a transvestite.
That was a thing that happened. Google it. But, so he's like, it can go farther than that, but my arms can't reach that far. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll allow that. Well, he decided between him and Ian that if one of them grabs one side of the pouch and the other one goes the other direction, that they could just keep stretching it. So Kevin had, he had multiple trees, including all the creatures that were living in the trees. He had a dragon. Well, it was a dragon. Became a dragon skeleton because the squirrels that he had in his pocket decided to eat the dragon because they became feral and decided to eat a dragon. He had his house in there at one point, didn't he, Ian?
It was the floating tiki
The
hut.
floating tiki hut. That's right.
We had commissioned a tiki hut home. It was actually like a tiki head, like a stone tiki.
Like an Easter Island head
that
kind
was
of thing.
yes,
Yep.
that was commissioned so that it was hollowed out into a large home, and then it was also enchanted so that it could fly.
That's
Or
right.
well, not quite fly; it could hover.
Yeah, it was like a foot and a half off the ground, just high enough that it would go over stuff, but not too high. Excuse me, that Kevin's character wouldn't be able to get up into it.
Clearly, someone was too high for all of this.
Apparently, it was.
Yes.
It was. Our early games were so very free form. Like we pretty much used the rules for combat, and that was about it. Everything else was just what chaos can we cause tonight?
And so much chaos. I think I had a sword that could rip out souls.
Yeah, you did. Yep. Or no, it was your hammer.
No, I had the hammer too. I had effectively Thor's hammer, but I also had a sword that could rip out souls.
Oh yeah. That's
Who
right.
didn't have a Soul Ripper sword in the 90s?
I mean, it's kind of a staple of the '90s. All the kids
Well,
were running
yeah,
around with them.
and it was also a very convenient torture device for the bard.
Oh god. Well, I mean, I think that bard it was an NPC that I had put in there, kind of as the voice of the GM in the game, like, hey guys, I don't think we should be doing this, and they would do it anyway. But I think by the time that campaign was done, the bard had become undead for something you guys had done, had managed to kill Kevin, but because of how we set up Kevin's custom race, he resurrected as a demigod. So he had that to deal with. Yeah, Kevin to this day tries to find ways to break games, and if I'm playing in the game with him, it's amazing to watch that that train wreck happen. A group that Kevin and I were playing in, the DM had to pretty much say, I don't know what to do with your character at this point, because literally the only things that he could throw at him that would have any kind of even momentary impact would be like reality stopping. But because Kevin's character was some kind of omnipotent spirit, that wouldn't really affect him. It would just be a minor inconvenience while he finds a new reality to go to. But this is what Kevin does, and he's really good at it. But if you're the person running the game, you have to be obscenely creative in how you deal with Kevin.
Yeah, so I mean,
He's a good
effectively,
guy, though.
each game somehow he manages to turn himself into Dr. Manhattan.
I mean, that's yeah, pretty much.
Sounds like you need to talk about Kevin, which is isn't that a movie title? I think that's a movie title.
I mean, if it's not, it should be.
It'd be a very short movie if we were referring to our friend.
What did Kevin do today? He put on pants. It was a good day.
Apparently, it's Dr. Seuss does Kevin's life.
That's that could easily be a book.
Yeah, it's Kevin and the Giant Douchebag by Roald Dahl.
Who's going to do the art in that one?
Tracy?
You know what? That seems par for the course.
Yeah, that tracks.
But yeah, I mean, going off of something we were talking about earlier, I mean, there's just a ton of different, both like homebrewed, fan made, official tabletop games that are out there. That I mean, pretty much, if you're looking for a genre of something to play, you'll be able to find at least one book of that thing. I mean, whether it's superheroes, which I mean, heck, I've got a couple actual books of stuff on that. I mean, there's sci-fi, fantasy, horror. It's all out there. I mean, it's really just a matter of what you're looking for, what do you enjoy, or even in the case of if you've never played anything before, what's maybe something that you hadn't really thought of before. You want to give it a shot. Hey, there's stuff out there for it.
Yeah, I think there's a genre for literally anybody out there. H.P. Lovecraft meets E.L. James. Sure, why not?
I'm sure it's out there.
For those of you who don't know, E.L. James was the lady that wrote crap. The very BDSM-y, terrible books. Gray, the 50 Shades of Grey. There we go.
I'm glad you
So,
completed that because I was like, Grey's Anatomy, that show that's been.
It's Grey's
and-
Anatomy,
and-
the RPG.
And it's also important to note that tabletop RPGs can lead to a number of things. Like, are you guys familiar with a writer named James S.A. Corey?
The name rings a bell.
Well, it's a pen name for two people who wrote the Expanse series of novels.
Okay.
And they wrote
Oh.
at least the first novel based on an RPG campaign they were running at the time. And they adapted that campaign into the first Expanse book, and of course we can see where they went from there.
Right.
Now they were talented writers in their own right, writing those books. But if you look at, there's a particular death scene that happens in the first book that oh wow, that's brutal. Well, that death scene came about because they had a player who needed to leave the game and had in previous game play sessions been a little wishy-washy on, are they going to play, are they not going to play, are they going to play for 2 weeks and then have a bunch of stuff to do, and oh, I need to leave the game, oh, let me back into the game. And so in this particular case, they brutally murdered his character, so his character couldn't come back. And that explains why the character in that particular character in the first book is gone.
Well, hey, there you go. I mean, that's a way to do it.
yeah, that kind of harkens back to, again, what I had said before, where my exit from the game when I stopped playing for my last session with the old group was, I'm going to brutally murder most of them in their sleep because I was literally not going to see them again for many years.
I say, and some of them you haven't seen since. Thinking about it.
Yes, that was Skippy. What was his name?
Skippy, yeah.
Yeah, Skippy. I've literally not seen him since that night.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen a couple of them since then, but not many. But yeah, my last and fondest memories of them is my rogue slipping into their bunks and slitting their throats in the middle of the night.
So I think that was a game that Corey was running, and I remember this now because once you said Rogue, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. The next week, he pulled the old. All right, so all of you wake up after having a horrible dream about being murdered. I'm like, oh, okay, so all right, pulling the whole "it was a dream" thing. I mean, it's cliche, but all right, it works. I mean, everybody was okay with it because that meant their characters are still alive.
I mean, half of them were still alive.
Well, I mean, yeah. The other half that weren't alive were suddenly alive again. And then he had this whole arc about we had to figure out why we all had the same dream, and it actually ended up turning into a pretty good campaign, honestly. So you did a favor because it was getting pretty stagnant at that point.
Well, you're welcome.
Your murder brought about a great happiness. Wait.
It brought about a great happiness when I did it.
I mean, that was for you.
I just want to say, legally, I have no attachment to either of these two people.
I'm not really all that
I am
attached
not-
to him either.
I'm not. I'm a visitor here. I am not, nor ever have been involved in any of these happenings and goings on.
I think I hear. Do I hear Morse code in the background? Is somebody tapping on their table?
No, that's the drip behind my wall that we talked about pre-show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the drip. Yes, the drip. And we don't mean Tim this time.
Yeah.
Had to bring it around, folks. Had
There
to
we
bring it
go.
in full circle.
But yeah, I mean, it's I mean, all in all, tabletop games. I mean, they're a great way for people to, when it's safe to do so, get together. I mean, even like you guys over at Cosmic Cray, you guys have been doing it online forever. So I mean, it's a great way for people to get together, have some fun, try something new. I mean, I can think of a couple players that I've known that have gone from oh, I'd never want to run a game to they prefer it if they run a game. So I mean, you can learn a whole new skill set from it. Just all in all, it's something that if any of our listeners haven't at least looked into it, I mean, not even saying playing, if you haven't even looked into it, see kind of what's out there, absolutely, look into all these different game systems. Like I said earlier, there's a genre for anything. And I absolutely recommend anybody that even has a passing interest, check it out. Go to your local friendly gaming store, get some advice, like, hey, can you talk to me about some different, different RPGs? I'm interested in, maybe learning some more about them. You'll make new friends along the way. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree on that, folks. Obviously, nowadays with the current pandemic climate, it may be a little bit difficult to meet up with folks, but
Yep.
there is this magical thing called the internet
Hmm.
that we are broadcasting to you from right now, and brought to you by your friend Al Gore.
He invented
So
the internet.
you can. There's plenty of avenues to go out there and meet folks. Message boards, game shops, all that kind of stuff. Websites. There's a plethora of opportunities out there that weren't around when Tim and I first started this. The
Uh,
internet was just kind of a thought.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I will also throw in discords like Cosmic Crits Discord, where we are a Pathfinder and Starfinder lodge that does Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society games every day of the week online with people you may meet and may know and may have never met before. It's been a very fun part of our community.
Oh, absolutely. And I should also say now a Paizo official partner thing as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I keep forgetting about that. That is a thing that happened.
What it still throws me off in some of your guys' more recent episodes. The new voice at the end. I'm like, wait, well, what is this? This is different. Oh, yeah, they have to have their legal disclaimer now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You said lodge, and all I could envision in my head is a bunch of people sitting around in high back chairs made out of like deer leather and a fireplace with brandy snifters.
No, that's
Uh,
accurate. That's
That's
accurate.
yeah, that's yeah.
okay. I mean, you're yeah. I mean, you're down south. I get
Except,
it.
well, our venture agent is Australian, so you have to replace that with emu feathers. But yeah,
And
it
a random
it
Oh,
works.
bingo.
okay. They ride kangaroos down there, right?
Yes, only.
Okay.
Exclusively.
Okay. Cool.
So
So
On
yeah.
on the left side of the road. I don't know why I thought that'd be funny. Just we'll move on. We'll move on.
all right.
Yeah,
So
so there's
is there
there's
an
opportunity for everybody out there to enjoy games, play games. Find a community that works for you. Any true gamers out there. We don't judge. We don't. We welcome all people to our games. Just don't be a jackass.
That's the cardinal rule
yeah.
of TTRPG playing and just being a human being. Don't be
Yeah.
a jackass.
Exactly. That's rule one in every book.
Yes, exactly. I think we need to make sure that is actually printed. So yeah, check out your local shops. If it's just do so safely. There's actually a shop down here, Tim, that I'm going to need to get you to drag you to next time we can go out safely. It's called Dungeons and Donuts.
You've told me
Uh,
about this. Yes.
yes, so it is a pub and bakery and TTRPG place where you can go and play games with your friends.
That sounds amazing, actually.
Yes, because nothing screams nerding out besides beer and donuts.
What do they have Dorito? Well, I guess that's more video gaming.
And
Yeah,
it's not quite Mountain Dew and Doritos.
yeah. That's the video game. As a video gamer, I'm a little offended that you would try to co-opt our culture.
I'm more of a fan of co-op games myself. I'm not really into the MOBAs and the battle royales, and I'm too old anymore to tolerate being killed by some 14-year-old who wants to scream about mounting my mother while teabagging me.
I
So
mean, that was in the terms of use. Just saying, Ian.
fair.
But all right, guys. I mean, yeah, we've kind of gone on for a bit about tabletops. I mean, it's something that all three of us enjoy. I mean, it's something that I fully expect and I'm going to enjoy for quite a long time. Not anything I think I'm ever going to get out of.
Right, until your son finally decides to usurp you through a hostile takeover. I'm assuming a la Highlander, where he's just going to come in one day and behead you with a claymore while screaming, "There can be only one."
I mean, that's that's how you're supposed to pass on your gaming books, right?
In the distance,
Right.
Queen plays.
Hey, Tim, when is his birthday again?
It's in November.
Okay. That gives me enough time.
Is it
I
the
mean,
5th? Because that's the most easy date in November to remember.
I
that
wish
was
it
actually
was.
that was actually my anniversary prior to getting a divorce. So, and I did that specifically for that reason.
Of course you did.
There may be a reason why I'm divorced.
It has nothing to do with that, but
Yeah, reading into that book / movie, I will.
yeah, exactly.
Time to be hitting the old dusty trail. Yeah. So, on that terrible disappointment, I think we're probably going to wrap it up here for tonight, folks. We appreciate you joining us, and a big shout out and thank you to Drew, our friend, who decided to join us and record with us tonight.
We had him tied up to be here. I just want to get that out there.
Don't need arms to operate a microphone.
Exactly. But yeah,
Exactly, and this is why I mentioned the Morse code thing. So that was not a call for help. That was a call for Doritos.
exactly. But yeah, we've talked about you, Drew, and the Cosmic Crit crew. If you guys want to check them out, cosmiccrit.com. They have their podcast, they have their Discord, all their information's on there. Definitely check them out. Great source, like Drew said, if you're interested in Starfinder, Pathfinder, or just nerding out in general on there. Drew is definitely a good source of that on there. So definitely check Drew and all the rest of the Cosmic Crit crew out on there.
Yeah, and if you want to get into some other more extreme nerdy side of things, you can check me and my cohort Miles out on the More You Nerd podcast, which is in its 10th year this year, which is ridiculous to think about as we go through basically anything that you could ever possibly want to have a focus on in nerddom. We probably have done it at some point, or we're going to. As soon as you let us know, we should do that. TheMoreYouNerd.com, at TheMoreYouNerd on Twitter. We're doing Forever Night right now. We're covering the entire first season of Forever Night. So if you like that Canadian vampire cop show from the early 1990s, well, come on down, because boy, do we have a lot to say about it.
That is a very niche thing to have a topic of, and I am all for it. But all right, folks, like we said, thanks for joining us, and we will catch you all again next week. All right, have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.